give the stage to the first presenter, Oscar Mazzoleni. Here you go.
Thank you very much for the invitation. I would like to share my screen because I have a PowerPoint. Sorry, I tried to do that. I open my, I hope it's possible to share. Yes, okay. So thank you very much. My presentation is on populism, of course, on a specific dimension of populism, economic aspect of populism in connection with the two specific goals. The first, it tried to illustrate how the successful radical right of extreme right populist parties in Europe is related to economic aspects, and the second goal is to develop a framework of analysis from a political science perspective. Of course, the relation between populism and economy is very complex. I'm not an economist. I'm not a representative of political economy. And I think that's really important to distinguish. So some scholars focus on the material economic condition, enhancing populist responses or grievances in terms of course, economic crisis, socioeconomic frustration, the impact of inflation, unemployment rates, etc. There are scholars, they focus on public policies, socioeconomic, public policies developed by populist actors. Of course, in this aspect, we can find neoliberal or protective or protectionist public policies. Of course, this is very also relevant. My focus is a bit different. It's different because I look at the discourses by actors, but also attitudes, social psychological attitudes by citizens. So in this sense, I look at the ideational and moral content of populist grievances. We have, in this sense, looking on what the populists tell, what the narratives of populists, and how these narratives can convince, to some extent, voters, citizens, to support this kind of parties. And of course, populism is a very open concept, very vague at the same time. There are many distinctions. I have no time to, of course, to discuss now in the presentation of which kind of populism we have to discuss. But here, I think I took this definition, just provisional, just to discuss about that. I think I take this definition in 3 times. So this definition consider three components: the centrality of the man on the street, the sovereign people, defined as a sovereign people, so as the ultimate holder of democratic legitimacy. This is the first dimension. The second dimension is the critique toward the representative democracy and the elites accused to having betrayed the interests of the people and, of course, sovereignty. And the third dimension is the claim for again the betrayed sovereignty and the power of the people, and an inspiration to a profound renewal of the political system. This is 3 dimension. Of course, not every political parties and actors develop a discourse combining all these dimensions, but in general, this is, I think, very relevant. And if you want to go in depth, in a specific way, in economic dimension of this general frame, we can focus not just on the power of the people, but the fact that we talk about the economic community, the prosperity, a common destiny of the people around their own material prosperity. So a narrative emphasizing the material well-being and the prosperity of the people who is presented as in decline or in danger. And the second aspect, of course, this prosperity perceived as in danger is seen as ignored or betrayed by the elites. And the third dimension, of course, is when we want to reconquest, recover the prosperity, that means also to regain the sovereignty of the people. So this is overlapping between prosperity and sovereignty of the people. And in connection with this three aspect, I focus on two concepts, specific concepts. One is the producerism, concept of producerism. Is a long story, intellectual story of this concept. I have no time here to develop, and sovereignism. And producerism is used for many, especially U.S. scholars, to working on right-wing populism. And this concept is based on the idea that there are some two specific components in the society. One is the producers, which contribute to the prosperity of the community, and the other side there is a kind of parasites. So people or not people unable to contribute. In this sense, there are no right to be part of the people. So producerism is this narrative opposing to these two, in antagonist way, the people and the rest, the not producers in the society. And this is interesting because when populism, in terms of economy, define the people, what the true people is in terms of economics, is based on this idea of producers. So the people, the real people, are the producers. And the other side, when you have to talk about what the people are, they are sovereign, but they are sovereign about what? They're sovereign about their own destiny, their own prosperity in specific. And when we want to restore this betrayed prosperity, we have this idea of to reconquest the sovereignty. Sovereignism is a claim, is not just an institution, it's a claim, a message of nostalgia for the good old days, by referring to an idealized period of when the people enjoy economic well-being. This is the idea we need to restore the old and the best moment of the history under our life, etc. These two narratives, producer and sovereignty, is part of this dimension, economic dimension of populism. And in order to illustrate how it works, because it can be just an intellectual speculation, but what we have to do with my colleague S.J.D from Sciences Po Paris, we have worked on the one side of the discourse by the actors, political actors in Europe, and on the other side among citizens and voters. And here I do just two cases: France, member of the European Union, and another country not member of European Union but part of the Schengen Treaty, as Switzerland. And we have worked on a survey. I have not just time to develop here. We can discuss it if you have interest. But we conduct a original comparative survey with our own questionnaire based on this concept of sovereignism and producerism. And we examine how this dimension could work, could influence of finally the behavior of the people in front of this kind of right-wing populist parties. And in this sense, we are trying to show that the respondents are in fact consistently connected with this kind of attitudes, convinced by this opposition between producer and parasite, convinced that we need to reconquest sovereignty, economic sovereignty, and we show with a statistical analysis that is effective in this survey and this specific representative samples. And of course, how we can define concretely producers, we try to submit it to the people, to a representative sample of people, a kind of items on which they have to consider they disagree or not disagree. The first item is the general economic welfare of this country, of our countries, as in decline. So this is perception, a judgment of the people. The second is today in our country, many economic decisions are taken without taking in account the interest of the people. And in this country, they don't really care about the hard-working people, expressing the common expression of the producers. In this sense, we test the idea of the producer. We test also the idea of the sovereignism. About, of course, the government of this country does not really care about the living standard of the people. So it is not just the government working with external powers or not care about the people, but the living standard of people, specifically on economic dimension. And then this international trade agreement diminish the sovereignty of our country. Again, our government does not its best to defend the interest of our country in the world that's more general. And of course, this dimension of the coming back of economic sovereignty, so the sovereignism, is also focused on the citizens should have a greater say in the decision of that matter of a country. So the idea of that populism is not just a grievance, just an expression of criticism, is the volunteer of the willing to change something, to change strongly, and this idea to our country should better protect itself from external economic pressures. So the idea to change the system, to transform the system in order to respond to this narrative, of course. And we show with this analysis that independently from many other aspects, so we put under control gender, age, education. So independently of many aspects of factors are, of course, which are very important in explaining right-wing populist voting behavior. We consider also this dimension. We show that it's a significant impact, independently of the right-wing scale, about welfare chauvinism, the perception and the judgment about redistribution, the perception of the globalization. Of course, they have no time to develop here, but the cultural threat for immigration also, independently from all the aspects, this specific dimension of combining this idea of producers plus sovereignism as a real impact or significant impact in the two countries, both in France and in Switzerland. And just to conclude, I think it's important that we consider the specificity of the economic populism. So economic populism is not just a broad general idea of populism, but a specific conception in terms of economic dimension, not just the external impact, because of course socio-economic crisis is very important to explain this, the success of this kind of parties, but also the narratives, the discourses of these parties, the leaders of this party are very relevant in terms of economic proposals, and not just public policies, but the idea, the value, the moral discourse underlying the general message of this part. Economic dimension, of course, as I said, take different forms. Here, I just presented a focus on the citizens, a citizen approach, demand-side approach, the set of attitudes that play a significant role in explaining electoral support for this grinding populist party in Europe. And at the same time, of course, as I said, we focus on the analysis of discourses by the actors on party platform, for instance, electoral platform. We are working now on the Facebook also, and then that would be an important point. If we want to take seriously in account why these parties are successful in Europe, and not only in Europe, we have really to see and to check and to focus also on the messages and not just the external and internal. Of course, we can have an important analysis about the factor in terms of age, gender, many other aspects, socioeconomic factors, educational aspect, but these are not really connected with the message, specific message, the ideological supply of this party. And thinking we have to take really in consideration this aspect in also in economic dimension in order to understand the success of these parties. Thank you very much for your time.